Americans have read it. What's something that America gets crap for that is actually completely reasonable in context? I find that many foreigners find our food to be processed and low quality. When I ask them where they ate, they'll usually just start naming off the first cheap, gross quick food places they happen to walk by. There's a ton of amazing food in America, but there's also a lot of junk food to sift through too. If you just start eating the first thing you see, it'll probably be crap. Ask a local what restaurants in their city they recommend. Yeah, I lived in Asia for a while and people were shocked when I told them our mothers don't feed us French fries for dinner every night. Not an American, but as a Canadian this has always bothered me, the fact that everyone thinks Americans are extremely ignorant about the world. Often I'll hear people say, we know so much about America but they don't know anything about us. To which I say of course you do. Don't pretend you know a lot about America because you take time to actively research it. Everything you know about America you know from consuming American culture. And culturally speaking, America is the center of the world. We're constantly passively absorbing information about your constitution from watching shows like Law and Order. But can most Canadians tell you who's the president of China or Switzerland? Or does someone from France know who the prime minister of Canada is? Or that we even have a prime minister and not a president? I feel bad for Americans because they have to be knowledgeable on essentially every country in the world in order to not be considered ignorant. But all people from other countries have to do is show off their knowledge about America, which they've only obtained via osmosis from watching TV, in order to feel superior. Thank you, Canadian friend. That we drive everywhere. People don't realize that the US is so sprawled out that it's impossible to get around without a car. Outside of a major city nothing is going to be within walking distance from anything else. And even inside most cities the public transportation just isn't there because it's too expensive to cover such sprawled out cities. Only in the handful of very dense American cities, NYC, SF, Chicago, do you find public transportation good enough to go without your own car, and in those cities a lot of people actually do go without a car. The saying goes, Europeans think a 100 miles is far and Americans think 100 years is old. The red Solo cups. BuzzFeed did an article showing all these pictures of Europeans throw fricking parties making fun of it. What's the deal with the red Solo cups? You know what's not fun at parties? Picking up broken glass. You know what's easy to pick up at parties? Red Solo cups. Hershey's isn't the only goddamn chocolate we eat. I know, it's cheap, overly processed, and not very high on the quality chart. But if you don't like it, look on the shelf to the left and to the right and you'll see another 15 different bars from various companies, all ranging in quality and price. America is the land of the $120 steak at a 5-star restaurant or the $6 steak at the Denny's down the street. Good or bad, we've got it. I'm not American but the US seems to get a lot of crap for being racist. It actually seems more like Americans are just very vocal about racism when it happens when other countries don't care or keep it quiet. Europeans can be racist too, specifically about Jewish, Gypsies, and Polish people. Canadian here, people crap on the US for being the most powerful nation, and trying to keep it that way. I'd rather they be the most powerful than Russia or China. Support from our neighbors up north, yay. Biscuits and gravy, sausage gravy, to be specific. I get it, it sounds heavy and starchy. Honestly, I'm not going to defend it on any sort of nutritional basis, but a quality biscuit, good sausage, Nieces or GTFO, and gravy made with a modicum of effort, you'll get it. I'm not even American, but those little square packaged cheese things you guys have are freaking delicious. I'm Dutch and my family is a bit of a cheese snob, but if I'm in the States, I will proudly order a grilled cheese sandwich just for the processed cheese. To be fair, even us Americans know it's not really cheese. It even says on the packaging cheese food product. But American sharp cheddar is awesome, so stick it up your cheese holes. Maybe this is more of being from a big city, but when being asked where you're from, saying the city or the state instead of the United States. I travel a lot and constantly introduce myself to people from all over. When asked where I'm from, I just say Chicago. Everyone knows Chicago. If I say the states, then it's where Illinois, where in Illinois Cook Country and where in Cook County Chicago. Why didn't you just say Chicago? A lot of people give me crap for it. Particularity Aussies. I know people from Paris will say Paris. I feel like Londoners do as well. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, but for brevity I would say I was from Chicago if asked. In the back of my mind, though, lurked the knowledge that people really from Chicago are suburbanites saying they're actually from Chicago, probably because the suburb life is quite different. I moved to the actual city a few years ago. I'm kind of smug now, I can say I really live in the city. That you can't go see Texas, California, the Grand Canyon, etc. all in one day. I meet too many Europeans who think traveling the US will be fast because it's all one country, and they completely fail to recognize it takes 10-12 hours to drive through Florida or California. Yep, living in Europe, you get the idea that you can just skip around to most big landmarks in a day or two. It takes me an afternoon to get from the middle of my state to the left middle of my state. Our restaurant food portion sizes. A lot of people in other countries don't take home their leftovers. That $12 fiesta platter is 3 meals right there. The United States is not one legal entity government. Only in foreign affairs is it one entity. Edit. Also, the federal GVT can make rules governing interstate commerce and trade or issues that affect commerce trade between two different US states. All internal affairs laws rules are the realm of the individual states per the 10th Amendment. When you tell me you should be ashamed as an American for the law Mississippi put into place when I live in Arizona, a different state, it's ridiculous. That would be like me saying you, a guy from the UK, should be ashamed at the new law put into place in Romania. After all, you're both in the EU. When you say hey guys, sometimes people in Sweden, Russia think you are referring to males only, but here it means people. Lawsuits. For example, accidents happen, but so do the medical bills that often follow, and not everyone has adequate any insurance to pay those bills. Hollywood. As much as people complain about the industry, the stars, etc., America is a powerhouse for entertainment, not just for ourselves, but for the rest of the world. Yes, and also, Hollywood produced a lot of thought-provoking works of art, not just Transformer movies. As being a veteran of the US, it always surprises people that we disagree with a lot of what goes on with the politics of the US, and that we don't totally support the political leaders of our country. We are just people who signed up, and protecting one another in a combat environment. All of these posts remind me of a post in a thread a while back that boiled down to this: if the world was a big game of civilization, then America would have already won a culture victory a while ago. We have very different laws in different states. Heck, some of our states have legalized marijuana, while others had sodomy laws on the books after the year 2000. What people need to keep in mind is how incredibly large the US is. Texas is bigger than France, and the distance between Maine and California is 3,300 miles, 5,400 km, almost the same distance as England from Russia. Imagine how we feel in Canada. Such a small population spread over such a great area. Sometimes you can go days, weeks or even months without seeing another Canadian. Not knowing more than one language. Our country is huge and completely isolated from most other cultures. We are required to learn a second language in public school growing up, but most Americans never get a chance to practice it in context. And actually, not all schools make you learn a second language. At mine, that's an elective class. We have all these big trucks, but it's not our fault that we have so much farmland and nothing runs like a Chevy Silverado. It irritates me when people make fun of America for having bizarre laws like it's illegal to whistle underwater or it's illegal to carry ice cream in your back pocket. These tend to be laws in specific cities, not all of America, and they are usually instituted because some specific incident made them necessary. The latter one, for example, is an attempt to deter cattle livestock theft. If any animal who wanders onto your land becomes your property, all you have to do to steal an animal is lure it onto your property with a tasty treat, and if it's in your pocket you can claim that you didn't do so intentionally. Raw milk being banned. Apparently we don't care because we're not all anti-GMO with no proof of harm, but pasteurization has been proven to save lives. Not having a passport or speaking a second language. This place is freaking huge and classy, and everyone more or less speaks English. You couldn't explore everything there is here in one lifetime, much less the world. Was gonna correct your spelling, but huge actually sounds okay out loud. I agree though. I'd say the majority of Americans are never put into a situation where they need to speak anything other than English anyways. It would more or less be a waste of time for most people. I think something to keep in mind is that we are not homogeneous. I think it's easier for places like Sweden to implement stuff because most citizens have the same upbringing and history. We have a much more varied background and present, which makes laws ideas more difficult to implement. Beer. I was so excited to try beer in England. To my dismay they mostly drink a beverage that is identical to Bud Miller Coors, only they call it Carlsberg Castling or 1554. Is it 1664? I had a colleague come from Germany to work with us for about 6 months. He said, the US makes the best beer in the world. The US also makes the worst beer in the world. Everyone gets OP when we call ourselves Americans. What jerks. There's South America, Middle America, we're all Americans. Yay. Except Brazilians have the luxury of calling themselves Brazilians. You know what sounds stupid as frick? United Statesian. That's what. That's why we call ourselves Americans, guys. It was the easiest crap to say. Frank Lloyd Wright, American architect, proposed Usonian. Not that I care BTW, but it's better than United Statesian, which directly translated to Spanish, is what is actually used. But I don't know about other languages. Not knowing other languages. I have never in my life needed to know a different language for any reason. And I have moved 6 times, many of those over 1,000 miles from the previous spot. Each of those locations all spoke English. Honestly, race relations. We have problems, yes, but we have them because we are so diverse. Things are bound to happen. Not saying it's good, just saying that people will be people. I'm sick of countries that are 95% white, black or getting onto us for having racial issues here. We're the country that literally fought and bled over slavery and segregation and in the end beat it. We still have problems, but Americans are working day by day to fix them and heal old wounds. Someone standing over in a country with very little diversity doesn't deserve to mock us and call us out on problems they've never faced. Statistics often do not take America's economic diversity into account. American kids are more poorly educated than those of the rest of the developed world. But if you break it up by economic level, American kids of different classes achieve at about the same level as those in other countries. American rich kids are about as smart as other countries' rich kids. Ditto middle class and poor kids. But we have more poor kids. Economic inequality is the problem. And it is a problem, not poor education. You could probably draw similar conclusions about violence. I think most Americans fail to take this in account, as well. This will never get seen, but I live in South America and they do not get the sheer size of the US. California has the world's 16th largest economy just on its own. This size and population, 350 million people, is the cause for a lot of the things that people hear about and think are crazy. UK has something like 80 million in all. You put 350 million people together and someone is going to get hit in the face with a fish at some point. And, sadly, someone is going to die in a mass shooting. More people, more problems. I'm not an American, but the stereotypical overuse of words and concepts like liberty, freedom, and the American dream gets joked about a lot, but when you think about it, they are really very beautiful and great ideals. Really day to day we, speaking from my experiences here, don't talk about stuff like that. When you see it online it's usually being satirical or they're just joking. But at the same time I would be lying if I told you talking about American freedom, liberty and the American dream, satirical or not, didn't warm my heart. The fact that we don't have mass public transportation everywhere. Our country is simply too large and spread out to have the kind of rail or bus network that European countries have. Outside of the Northeast, our major cities are hundreds of miles apart, with very little in between. It just isn't feasible to connect all of our cities with a nice, frequent train service that's going to be anywhere near affordable. We also have a very effective rail system for freight. Subsidizing passenger service cuts into the efficiency of a highly profitable freight service. That Americans don't know much about other countries, political systems, cultures, languages, etc. Here's the deal. America is the cultural hegemon of the world. Everyone watches American movies and TV shows and listens to American music. If you turn on a radio in France, Saudi Arabia, Kenya, or Japan, you'll be able to find at least one American pop station that might play some local music too. They also talk about American politics, generally at least, in most countries. For example, I listened to Obama's first inaugural speech with a cabbie man. The fact is, citizens of most countries only know a lot about two cultures. 1. Their regional national culture and 2. American culture. Europeans are just as ignorant about Chinese culture politics as Americans. It's not our fault that Brazilian TV shows haven't gotten the international star power to make it on American TV stations, so we can't learn about their culture that way. This also leads to the language thing. Most people learn English or want to learn English by watching US TV movies. If China made 90% of the global blockbuster movies and music, I would probably have picked up quite a bit of Mandarin over the years. So, basically everyone became an American weebo, to the point of it being the norm, and not even noticed. Slavery in the 1800s. I mean, everybody else was doing it at the time, but I really only ever hear of slavery when talking about American slavery. We also never get credit for fighting a war to end it, costing over 600,000 lives. Well, we actually are pretty crappy at soccer. For good reason though. Most of our best male athletes end up playing football. An infrastructure for women to play American football in the US is almost non-existent, and lo and behold, our women's soccer teams are very competitive internationally, where our men's teams are not. Air conditioning. I have read Europeans giving Americans crap about overusing it, after having been to Germany and France and throughout the south of the USA. Europeans don't have a clue. The heat waves in European that killed people a few years ago, that at a balmy conformable spring day in South Texas. Kinder eggs are illegal because of an FDA ruling against non-edible items inside food products. It's a sensible law, and it would be dumb to make an exception for a single candy. This is what freaked up king cakes for those of us in Louisiana for a while. Many places have returned to having the baby inside before selling, but only at local bakeries. Our carbon footprint. About 25% of the world's economic activity, and about 25% of the world's carbon emissions. What else would you expect, really? Not only that, but some of the developed rich countries with much higher per capita emissions get a free pass. Canada, I'm looking at you. Americans are freaking nice. I don't care where you go. If you are in a Section 8 housing area, or if you are in Tribeca, if you need something you can expect someone to go out of their way to help you out. Of course some people are total mo's and don't have any realization of how to act, but from helping out ladies at the Asian market to giving folks a ride, by and large I have been very impressed with how nice I've seen people be now that I'm out from under my parents. Massive military spending on new weapons technology. Yeah, well, when we get invaded by aliens you'll be glad at least someone has working rail guns and directed energy weapons. Lasers are already on ships and rail guns will be soon. Like less than 2 years soon. Now if we can just get that fusion power working I can have my battle mech finally. That American football is called football even though it's mostly played with the hands. It makes perfect sense once you know that the original sport it came from, and got its name from, wasn't called football because it was played with feet. It was called football because it was played on foot, and not on horseback like most of the popular sports at the time. Our cars not handling corners well. One thing we have a surplus of is space. We have roads here that literally go hundreds of miles in a straight line. I have a 34-mile commute to work here in New Jersey. 30 of those miles is a straight line. Heck, we have a sport dedicated to going extremely fast in a straight line. You guys get excited over a Bugatti Veyron's 1001 bhp and 260 miles per hour. Here is a car with 10,000 horses and a top speed of 330 miles per hour, 530 kph, in a quarter of a mile, 0 to 60 in 0.48 seconds. Agree wholeheartedly. That being said, Ford ditched the solid rear axle on the Mustang for independent rear suspension. American football. The general perception is that football athletes are just big dumb brutes running into each other for a few hours on a Sunday, but it actually is a highly strategic and cooperative sport. People also complain that it moves too slowly. We just need short breaks to eat tortilla chips and drink superior beer. I've heard American football likened to as chess. It's a turn-based game of strategy. Made me actually start to enjoy watching it. I still have no idea what is going on. That a lot of Americans haven't traveled to another country. It's considerably more difficult and expensive for us to do it, especially if you live in the middle of the country. Plus there's so much to see here. For the record, I have traveled. It's a quicker drive from Paris to Berlin than from Miami to Atlanta. The Imperial system. Base 12 just kills Base 10 when it comes to building and designing things. A Base 12 system is geometric by nature in that its unit is divisible by 2, 3, 4 and 6, while Base 10 is only divisible by 2 and 5. I worked with a guy from South America who finally, after a year of working with inches, admitted that it's a better system when dealing with geometry. He loves it so much now. I have never even thought of this. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.